Hi guys, so recently I got some questions about zoom transition macros or templates basically to be used for Davinci Resolve in the Fusion tab. So I've made some and I'll leave the link down below where you can download them and use them for free for personal, even commercial projects. Just maybe don't resell them if possible. Actually, just don't resell them, that would be not very nice. And yeah, we're going to have a quick look at how to use them because there are a few things to keep in mind. So let's get started. So right now we're in the Edit tab of Davinci Resolve, and let's say we want to put our zoom transition between these two clips. So just this one to this one. Now the first thing we're going to do is basically I've created the macros in two parts. So one part's going to be put at the end of the first clip, so the first clip's going to zoom in, and then the second part's going to be put at the beginning of the second clip. So the second clip will carry on zooming in just for a little bit more as well. So the first thing we're going to do is move the playhead to the cut point, and then I'm going to move the playhead backwards 6 frames. So you can just use the arrow key on your keyboard, just press it to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So each time you press the arrow key to the left, it's going to move the playhead backwards 1 frame. So I press it 6 times. And now I'm going to use the blade tool and make a cut here. And use the arrow key. You can see that we made a little section right here at the end of the first clip. Now this is very important, but you've got to right click on the section you've just created and then go to new compound clip, and you can just name it whatever you want, maybe zoom transition part 1. Okay, create. Now all you have got to do is just move your playhead over this little section you've created and then click on the Fusion tab. Now if you download the file from the link below, you'll get these two files, zoom part 1 and zoom part 2. So for the first part, we're just going to use the zoom part 1. We're just going to drag the file, which you can save anywhere on your computer in any folder. Just drag it into the Fusion window. Now all you have to do is just place it between the input and the output. So you're just going to, either you can just double click to delete the original line, and then draw one line into the zoom part 1, and then draw another line into the output from the zoom part 1. So now it's between the output, the input and the output. Now if we play the clip, as you can see, it's already zoomed in. So if we go back into the Edit tab and have a quick look, let it render for a bit. There you go, you've got your little zoom transition. Now you can actually customize the zoom transition further if you wish. So if you go back into the little section we created and click on the Fusion tab. Now the first thing I forgot to mention, well, I said I was going to mention before, is basically the reason we need to create a compound clip is because so that the frame will start from 0. So the frame 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you don't create a compound clip, depending on the clip you use, sometime you'll start at frame maybe 378, 800 or 100 or something like that. So it will mess up the keyframes within the macro. So basically by creating a compound clip, a new compound clip, the frame will start from frame 0 and then our macro will work basically. Okay, so let's look at how to customize our zoom transition bit. So if we click on the zoom part 1 node and open the inspector tab, you can see that there's a few options we can play around with. So we have the center. Center is basically where the zooming is going to zoom into. So right now I've defaulted to that you just zoom into the center of the frame, right? And the next thing you can also customize is the size. It's basically how much you zoom in. So we open the Spline Editor and then just double click the zoom part. So you just remove the tick and then bring the tick back. I think it's a little bug where you have to do that. Otherwise the spline doesn't work properly. And then press this little icon here where it's like an arrow, zoom to fit. You'll see it. You have the keyframes for the zoom and the keyframe for the basically the center point where you're going to zoom into. So let's say you want to change where the your effects zoom into. You can just move the playhead to the last frame basically where the zooming is zoomed in all the way, and you can just click on this little marker here and just move your zoom point around. So now if we replay it, you can see that now instead of zooming into the middle, it's now zooming into this little flower right here. Apart from that, you can also play with the zoom amount. So again, if we move our playhead to the last keyframe here, and you can maybe increase the size if you want, so it zooms in more, or reduce it. That's all up to you really. So or you can customize it by dragging on the graph as well. So if you move it upwards, it's going to zoom in more. Move it downwards, it's going to zoom in less. And also you can customize the shape of the graph as well. So right now, as you can see, I have it so it starts out quite slow. So it starts zoom slowly, then speed up, and then get very fast at the end. But you can also change that. So maybe you can want it slow at the end, or even faster at the end, or maybe at the beginning you want it to start off fast. You can just click on the first keyframe and then increase the speed. This is all up to you basically. You can even make the transition last longer. So right now I basically defaulted it so it lasts about 5 frames. So if you want to make it shorter, you can just click on this keyframe and then move it in. So instead of taking five frames to zoom in, it only takes 2. Or you can drag it out and make it last longer. But obviously the section you create, instead of at the first cut here, instead of cutting it 6 frames out, you might need to cut like 10 frames or 20 frames depending on how long you want the transition to last. And that's up to you basically. So now that we've finished customizing the first zoom part, as you can see right now, the first clip is zooming in at the end. You can just leave it like this if you want. You don't have to make the second clip kind of zoom in a bit more as well. But obviously, if you want the continuation where the first clip kind of zooms in, and then when we move to the second clip, it kind of carries on zooming for a bit more, then you can use the zoom part 2 macro that is also included in the link below. So how to use it is exactly the same procedure. We just move the playhead to the cut point, but this time we're going to move the playhead forward 6 frames. So again, use the arrow on your keyboard, the arrow keys. Click to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, use the blade tool and cut here, make a little section. So now we've got like a little section at the beginning of the second clip. And again, right click and create new compound clip. This time we're going to maybe zoom transition part 2. Amazing. Create. And again, move our playhead over the little section here and go to the Fusion tab. And again, we're just going to drag our zoom part 2 into the Fusion window here. And we're just going to place it between the input and the output. You can just left click and then hold shift. And then when we place it between the lines and then let go of the mouse, it's just going to drop in between the lines. So right now it's between the input and the output. And if we play the clip, there you go, it's already zooming in. So if we go outside, there you go. You can see at the second clip at the beginning, it kind of carries on zooming for a little bit more. So it's more of a continuation instead of just like the first clip zooming in and then just stopping dead. At the second clip, we have like a little carry on zooming in before it finally stops. Now the second clip, again, you can customize things a bit, but one thing to be careful of is basically you must not forget that for the second clip, when it's zooming in, it's zooming into our clip, and then it's going to move on to just the normal clip without any effects, right? So you want the last frame of this zooming in section to match basically the normal clip that's just playing normally. So the problem is if you try to customize where it's zooming into, the problem is the last 2 frames won't match. What I mean by that is okay, let's have an example. If I go into the Fusion tab again for this little section and click on the Spline Editor, again double click to remove the tick and bring it back and zoom to fit. Let's say if I gonna customize where it's zooming into, so I move the player to the keyframe at the end, and let's say I want it to zoom into like this little flower here. Okay, so it's zooming into this little flower, no problem. But the problem is when we play it outside, see, the problem is when this little section here is zooming into the second clip, it's zooming into this little flower here. But then when it moves on to the normal clip that we're just playing, see, it's gonna bounce back to the center frame. So basically, when we're customizing this second transition, we have to watch out which part we customize. So obviously, we don't want to customize the end part. So I'm going to have the center point at just 0.5. So it's zooming into the center. Now if I play it, it's just zooming straight into the center. But what you can customize is the beginning. So if we move our playhead right to the beginning, we can customize how much it's zooming into. So let's say if I increase the size, so basically it's not zooming in at all. It's just starting from 1 to 1, right? So right now if I play the clip, it's basically hardly zooming in at all. But if you want it to zoom in more at the beginning, we can just move our player to the first frame and then reduce the size. So it starts off really small and then it zooms in quite a lot. And again, you can choose change the center point at the beginning as well. So where it's zooming into or zooming in from. So we can just move the center point here or something. So it's starting from here and then zooming into the center. So I play it. So you can zoom from bottom left into the middle. Now we go back to the edit part. See, so it's going to zoom into from the first clip, and then the second clip is going to zoom in and stops at the middle. So the last frame of this little section here matches with the first frame of the clip we're playing normally. So it will zoom in, kind of, it will be more correct, instead of like getting to the last frame and then suddenly it's like zoomed in here and then we move on and it bounces back up to the center. It'll just look a bit weird. Okay, well, I guess that's it, I suppose. I hope it was useful, and again, you can use it for any project you want, basically, personal, commercial, paid projects. Just don't resell them or something like that. And yeah, I hope maybe I'll see you around, I guess. Bye.